Late 2010s Baltimore Orioles had some of the worst teams in recent Major League Baseball history. They needed a distinct identity after the cores from previous teams broke up. But that did not happen. They put together some dreadful seasons, posting season after season of awful baseball. During this time, from 2018 to 2021, they had a winning percentage of just under 35%. For some context, the vast majority of teams fell between 45 and 55% for this time. So all this losing was bad, but it's definitely being looked at in a new light now. Due to their poor records, the Orioles racked up many high draft picks, and they've spent those picks on some really exciting prospects. In 2023, the Orioles had their first 100-win season since 1980. Was this legit and sustainable success, or was their season fraudulent and not as good as it looked on paper? Coming into the season, the Orioles were looked at as a team that would more or less match their 2022 win total of 83. A perfectly respectable season for a team heading towards the end of a long rebuild. Thanks to huge contributions from those prospects I mentioned earlier, they actually ended up winning 101 games and won the American League East by a decisive margin over the Rays. That sounds like a great season at first glance, but when you look deeper at their postseason finish and overall seasonal team metrics, I understand why people are saying they overachieved and won't be as good this season as they were last year. The Orioles scored 807 runs and let up 678. Good for a plus 129 run differential. Pythagorean win-loss record formula is a formula in which run differential alone is used to determine a team's record. It determined the Orioles' record as 94-68, which if they actually did have that record, they would not have won the division. Admittedly, it's not a perfect stat, but many teams that overachieved according to the formula did not go on to have success in the playoffs, and the Orioles are no different. Another characteristic of this Orioles team was its emergence of surprise hitters. Guys like Ryan O'Hearn, Austin Hayes, and Aaron Hicks were all of a sudden showcasing ability either not seen before or not seen in years. I'll start with Ryan O'Hearn, who before last season had never really played many games in a season due to poor hitting splits and injuries. In 2023, he was productive with 14 home runs and a 118 WRC+. Despite this, his stats are a little inflated because of some good batted ball luck. His expected stats are all lower than what he actually did have, meaning that he overperformed in a sense. Let's look at Austin Hayes next. A 2016 third-round pick by the Orioles, he just had not been panning out on the offensive side of things for a good part of his career. He had a few solid seasons, until last year, when he broke out with 16 home runs and a 769 OPS. Like O'Hearn, his numbers were also inflated because of batted ball luck. His 241 xBA is well below his actual average of 275, which really isn't that great. Finally, Aaron Hicks. He's had quite an interesting career, having fantastic seasons with the Yankees before a couple of bad years got him DFA'd last year. He signed with the Orioles mid-season and instantly became a good hitter again out of nowhere. And like Hayes and O'Hearn before him, there's a pretty obvious culprit. Expected stats had him way below his actual mark. Hayes' 34-point drop in batting average is small compared to Hicks's 45. His actual slugging percentage of .383, which isn't really that great to begin with, was countered by a dreadful expected slugging mark of .303. Expected stats obviously aren't everything, but typically a hitter who overperforms one year will regress the next. I could be completely wrong about these guys, but this is just what the statistics say. Even when you look at the rotation, some guys overperformed for what their stats would be. Kyle Bradish, considered the ace of the rotation, fell victim to the expected stats. His real earned run average of 2.83 was parallel to an expected average of 3.82. This is the type of stuff that fans pick up on, and now those same fans are projecting low on the Orioles this season. Fangraphs projects them to go 85-77, a 16-win downswing from the year before. Is this the data they're considering for those predictions? It's definitely possible, but maybe a larger reason is the amount of unproven talent currently on the roster. That's what I'm leaning towards, as players like Jordan Westburg and Jackson Holliday figure to be fixtures in the starting lineup as early as opening day. Westburg has little major league experience, and the number one prospect, Jackson Holliday, has absolutely zero. What's also possible is that their postseason showing is what's leading to all the negativity around the team from the other fan bases. Teams that get swept in the ALDS sometimes don't make it back there for a while. Look at the 2019 Twins, who set the record for most home runs in a season before getting swept out of the playoffs and failing to make it back to the American League Division Series until this year. In hindsight, we can't really comment on if the Orioles were a fluke last year until many years down the road. If this rebuild turns out to be extremely fruitful and the team are contenders for a while, then 2023 will simply be considered the start of a new era of baseball in Baltimore. If the prospects fail and the team spirals back into mediocrity again, then we can officially label 2023 as a fluke season.